All right, everybody, this is the F1 Passport.
And we are the F1 Brothers.
So we're going to report on some of the news articles that have come out over the summer break. And most of our sources come from Autosport, various different sources. All right, the first article we found on Autosport is The Secret Life of Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, this is the same guy that just told Hulkenberg to suck his balls on...
Lick his balls.
Lick his
Be
balls.
specific.
In front of millions and millions of people on television and got no negative repercussions out of it. In fact, he got his own freaking
So
expose.
you can tell somebody to lick your balls. It gets put.
No.
It gets blasted out worldwide, and you get an expose on the F1 website the week after.
No, I can't do that. I don't think you can do that either. I don't know how he got away with that.
Dude, so that, I mean, they're asking him stuff like, apart from driving Formula One, what's your favorite buzz?
So they basically asked him every question except for the obvious question.
Every question except for the obvious. I think the closest question that comes close to what happened the other day is, what's the most embarrassing mistake you've ever made?
I guess, is the summer break just that boring? Like they had nothing else to talk about? Or
I guess so. His response is, nothing comes to mind.
Nothing comes to mind.
I'm somebody who can forget easily. So he's forgotten about it, and the whole world has forgotten.
So what do you think his team said to him after he left that? Because they have the little team representative that sits behind everybody as they're doing their interviews, right? I'm pretty sure they went back and reported that to the higher ups.
Yeah, and they probably sat him down and gave him a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, all right. So the next article that we found was Renault pauses development for drastic change for its 2017 car. So they made this change right before the British Grand Prix.
Uh-huh.
They changed the whole floor of the car, and evidently they had some other changes in mind, but they realized that they couldn't implement those until they put this floor on.
Okay.
So they had to stop all their development, and they were sucking up the joint until they put this thing on, and they come out of the box with this new floor and hit P6 with Hulkenberg.
So what does that mean? They're pausing it. So after putting the new floor in, then they're going to pause?
No, before they put the floor in.
Okay.
They had some things they wanted to implement, but they just put everything on pause
Okay.
until they got this floor on.
So what does that mean after the summer break? Should we expect them to be further up?
Yeah, they're a high mid-range team now. I mean, they're up there they're beyond Toro Rosso now.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
They're beyond McLaren. Not that that's saying much, but they may be right behind Red Bull now.
Okay.
And as a works team, that's as it should be, right?
Yeah. So is that a good place for Alonso to go to next year?
Hey,
Back to Renault.
That's where he got his championships, you know. So some of the things they said, the scale of the change, that it's Silverstone upgrade required. The change almost brought a first top 5 finish until an ERS problem dropped Hulkenberg to 6th at the British Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a
That's pretty
floor
daggone good.
can make that much of a difference.
Yeah. I mean, they say like one change can trigger a bunch of problems, or one change can trigger a lot of things to go right. It looks like they got it right.
Wow. All right. So it says that, and I quote, "We started with a very sensible platform in terms of qualifying, and now not managing to turn that into race pace." So their race engineer, Abitable.
Just say the race engineer.
He added, so what we've done is an awful lot of change to the car in its existing shape and form and its starting point. to trade a little bit of qualifying performance in its race performance. So before the British Grand Prix, they were focusing on the qualifying, right, and not doing so well in the race. They realized that making this change to the floor would that they'd have to change their focus to not qualifying so well, but then being able to perform
So that
very well.
So
in the
that whole
race.
statement, what is it? Chasing qualifying, and now they're sacrificing qualifying. What is it?
I mean,
So-
everything is a trade-off. I remember last couple of seasons actually, with Lewis and Rosberg. It seemed as if Lewis put all his focus on qualifying to get Q1, then Nico would tend to do better in the race, and vice versa. And that seems to be an even trade-off.
So a race setup versus a all-out, balls-out, fast qualifying setup
Right.
is basically what it is. Yeah.
Right. It's an all-out trade-out or trade-off.
So they're going to sacrifice their qualifying so they can go out and kick ass in the race.
Right. So they say with the older floor, they were chasing quality performance, and now they're sacrificing quality for race performance. So that's something we should expect to see play out the rest of the season.
All right. So the next article we have also from Autosport was titled "The Unexpected Senna Honor Hamilton's Set to Beat." I don't even know what that means. Like,
So they're digging
Then
deep.
read.
They're digging deep to find honors for Lewis
Okay.
on this one. So what they did was, and I'm going to go ahead and read here. So I quote: "By our reckoning, 136 World Championship races have been affected by rain. Around 14% of the total events held. The first was the 1951 Swiss Grand Prix, with this year's Chinese Grand Prix, the most recent. So they're looking at races that have been affected by rain. So of those 136 races, only 17 drivers have won more than twice of those races. Those drivers therefore seem a sensible place to start for their search. So what's they have Michael Schumacher out of 47 races. Out of 47 wet races, they say he won 18.
18. Okay. All right.
Senna, out of 21 wet races, he won 13. And then comes Lewis in third. Out of 27 wet races, he won 11. And then, surprisingly, Jenson Button, out of 40 races, he won 7. So that's not a very good ratio.
Yeah. Took him a long time to get there,
yeah,
right?
but he's on the list. So, this is what I call a long bow. This is a long bow to try to give
Yeah.
Lewis
Give him
some
some props.
accolades, and it's damn near impossible to say just because it was a wet race, just how wet
Right.
was it, and how much did that wetness affect the race?
My first question is, when is your boy Max Verstappen going to be on that list?
I'm telling you, I mean, but they're saying that's one of the metrics
Oh, a great driver.
of a great driver is
Yeah.
how well they do in the rain.
Well, I've never seen anything like, in my time of watching Formula One, like that Brazil race.
You haven't seen Senna in Monaco?
No, I've seen a few flashbacks.
I'm gonna put that video
Yeah.
up. that.
Yeah. It's reminiscent. Did it seem reminiscent?
Yes. Yes. That,
It was incredible. Like our dad, who doesn't even watch Formula One, saw that race at our house,
right.
and he was like, "Who is that
Who is
in that
that
Red
guy?"
Bull car,
Yeah.
flying past everybody?
Yeah.
Knows nothing about the sport."
Unbelievable, taking lines that nobody else was taking.
Yeah.
You know, having the bravery, first of all, to even try it, but then the skill to be able to pull it off.
Remember that save he had, like on the last turn?
Yeah, right.
He could turn it completely sideways.
Right.
Crazy,
Right.
crazy. And I'm not even a Max fan, but
So that fits into your love-hate relationship.
game recognizes game.
Game
Yeah.
recognized game.
That's all I can say.
All right, the next article we have is the Red Bull boss Helmut Marko tips Sebastian Vettel to win the 2017
Why?
F1 title.
Why is he going back to slurp Vettel, and Vettel left his team?
Are they trying to get him back or something? I mean, is
That, that could be something. That could be because he's acting a fool at Ferrari, like fussing and cussing all the time. Maybe they're gonna get rid of him,
Are they
and they're
trying
trying
to
to
get him back?
give him that soft landing back at Red
That's the
Bull.
only thing I can think of. I mean, and he goes on to say, I believe in Vettel because I know his mental strength. And Ferrari has raised its game. So he's gargling Vettel and Ferrari for the sake of trying to get Vettel back.
So did Ron Dennis or anybody at McLaren ever have sweet things to say about Lewis after he left
No.
for Mercedes?
No.
I didn't think so.
Not the crickets, not
Yeah.
one word, not one word. They go on to say that Silverstone, I would say, was an exception, and Ferrari was clearly the stronger car in the first half of the season. Were they clearly the strongest car in the
Well,
first half of the
they
season?
started off strong. They won the first race of the season. It was maybe the first 2 or 3 races where you look like it might be their year,
Yeah.
and then Mercedes kind of turned it around.
I mean, it's all the we talked last episode about the short tracks,
Yeah.
but it's not just the short track; it's the slow corner
Yeah.
tracks, right? These compact courses
Mhm.
that have slow corners.
That long wheelbase for the Mercedes makes it hard to get around
Yeah,
corners.
makes it harder for them.
And
to
Lewis
navigate.
goes and whips it into him, and then ends up wearing out his tires.
Right. Goes on to say that Sebastian will use this summer break to come back even stronger. Come on, man.
As if his last year at Red Bull was all that great when he was getting smacked around by.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So my argument about that last season that
Mhm.
Vettel had with Red Bull is that they knew he was leaving,
Right.
and Ricardo, they knew he was staying, so they
They
put
set
all their
it up.
resources behind Ricardo.
Right.
The same way Mercedes showed Lewis that they could help. What's his name?
Nico.
Help Nico
Rosberg, yeah.
beat him.
Mhm.
Red Bull showed Vettel that they could help Ricardo beat him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's just a theory, but I believe in it.
The next article is Toro Rosso Honda 2018 Formula One engine deal talks collapse.
Collapse no sooner than they started. So Toro Rosso, they have a deal for next season with Renault
Uh-huh.
for Renault engines, but after all the strife with McLaren, I guess Honda is courting all the other teams, and Toro Rosso was considering taking the Honda
Sauber's
alone.
place? Were they going to take Sauber's place, or was this kind of in parallel to Sauber, like they both were going to go?
I thought it was in parallel with McLaren. It could have been a result of Sauber, but at any rate, it doesn't seem like a contract is actually binding in Formula One. You know, racing or driver contracts or any other kind of contract doesn't seem to. You know, if you want to do something other than what you agreed you were going to do,
Yeah.
you can seem
You can
to
just do it. Yeah.
So
Maybe they just have out clauses that allow them to get out for whatever reason.
I don't know.
But-
These contracts seem to be written in toilet paper.
Yeah, right. So is McLaren going to be back with Honda next season?
That's
for
what
sure.
That's what it looks like. It's not
Is-
definite, but that's what it looks like.
Okay. Is
So-
Honda engine going to be any better? Like all the promises they made for this year, is it going to be better?
They made a lot of promises this year, and as I understand it, they made too many changes at once, and they weren't anticipating a lot of vibration with the engine, and that has been what's caused them the reliability issues, because the dyno, they couldn't test things on the dyno for the vibration that they were experiencing. So I mean, if they can get that fixed, then quite possibly. So it goes on to say that Honda is keen to take on a second F1 team after its agreement with Sauber was canceled, as it feels the extra data gathered would help develop development with.
It's just gonna be more crap. Like, what are you gonna do with more crap?
More data.
More data is more crap.
I mean, you can try. You can take one approach with one team and take another approach with another team, rather than just that one team. Or you can take this, that one approach, or taking multiple approaches with that one team, as they did.
Yeah, I guess so.
That didn't work out. So talks have been going on for several weeks, even though Toro Rosso already has a deal with Renault in place for next year. But it's believed the two parties that they could not come to an agreement regarding the financial aspects of the deal. So Toro Rosso out. All right, our last article, Ericsson, your boy the Swede, Ericsson wants to be in a more competitive F1 car as soon as possible.
What has he done to earn the right to be in a faster car?
He seems to think that because his teammate has been mopping him up in qualifying and in race performance, that those results aren't indicative of reality.
So there was Sauber, right? There was Sauber.
Yeah.
So Sauber changed their team principle. A lot of the argument was that because they wanted to focus more on Ericsson and not Pascal, right? So the team is a Swiss team. He's a Swiss driver. He's right where you think he should be.
So
He's looking to leave.
The new Swiss money came in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Swiss money came in, and apparently they told Marisha Caterborn, the former principal, that Swedish money, you need to promote Ericsson, and she refused to do it.
Mm.
So
she had to go.
She had to go. So she got tossed, and now Ericsson is feeling froggy, to the sense that not only does he feel like he's the team leader in a team that he's getting his ass kicked at,
Right.
but now he wants a better car.
So what's the competition level between he and Pascal? Who's won more? Who's beat who?
I'll put those results up, but okay. I believe in qualifying, how many races are we in? We're 11 races in. I think it's 9-2.
I see some here. 7-2 in their qualifying. All right, so according to Ericsson, I've been here for quite a few years now, so it's a good environment for me. But I want, as a driver, to be in a more competitive car as soon as possible. So is he telling the team, I want you to make this car faster? Or is he trying to send a little dog whistle out to the other teams to come take a look at them?
Right, make this car better, or I want another team. I want another car.
Right.
Who knows? They're not. Those aren't good optics. Either way. So he says, hopefully this year we will continue to make progress and be stronger. Then for me, I have no contract for next year, so I'm not sure what's happening for me in the future. But you're talking froggy like that,
right?
I guess sending out that dog whistle to all the other teams. But let's see what you asked about the performance up to date. So Ericsson feels he has matched highly rated new teammate Pascal Wehrlein in the opening 11 races of 2017. That's his statement. He feels as though he's matched him.
So all I got to do is match him. Like, I don't have to beat him. I just got to match him.
You don't have to beat him. And I've held this position for a while. There are some drivers, if you put them in a crap car, they can't do that well.
Right.
But you put them in a good car, and they'll do extremely well.
Who's a good example of that?
I think Button
Yeah.
I think Button is a good example. You put him in that McLaren, and he was, you know, fighting with Lewis, tooth and nail. Nico Rosberg, maybe.
Yeah. What about Max when he was at Toro Rosso? How was he all that good?
Actually, he was.
He was lighting it up there too.
No, he wasn't lighting it up.
Yeah.
He and Kvyat were battling each other.
Yeah.
You know, he'd probably be a perfect example.
I mean, same thing with Ricciardo. Ricardo, my boy.
Ricciardo is
Yeah.
the way it's supposed to be pronounced. So.
Yeah, he. I mean, I don't remember him being all that great when he was at Toro Rosso. Then when he came up to the big boy team, Red Bull team, he started lighting it up. I didn't even know he had teeth until he went to Red Bull. Then all you saw was him smiling all the doggone time.
All right, so Mercedes Junior Verline joined Sauber.
Is he still a Mercedes?
He's still a Mercedes Junior. He was supposed to get that seat. He was supposed to get the
that's
seat.
right.
That,
They were considering him for that. Yeah.
And I was convinced that he was going to get it.
German driver, German car.
German car, but you know, two brown dudes. And
Oh, my
They're gonna
gosh. I'm gonna leave that out.
Right. So Mercedes Junior Verline joined Sauber from Manor, and has so far had the upper hand over Ericsson in key areas, having scored all of the team's points
All of the team's points. Dang.
and leading the Swede 7-2 in qualifying.
That sounds like a pimp smack to me.
That sounds like a pimp smack. And Verline is saying, you know, what else can I do? What else can I do other than what I'm doing? Beat my teammate in a crap car.
Yeah, right.
And he's going to be out of a ride next season.
You think so? Verline?
He's done. He's done. Sauber is going to be a Ferrari junior team next year. So Pike, that guy, they had an article about him this week on the F1 website. If he's not in F1, then what's the point of F1? Really? This one young dude who hasn't proven anything.
What about Manor? Is there any chance they'll come back?
There's supposed to be another company that wants to buy over Manor's rights and put another team on the grid, but nothing concrete. I don't think it can happen by next season. So, you know. All right.
All right, well, that's all we got for today, guys. That's it for all of the news from the summer break. And next weekend, we're back at it again.
Peace.